Next, we have the CalPERS unfunded liabilities and funding strategy. Robin.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. For those that might be in the audience that don't know me, I'm Robin Bertagna, the city's finance director. Tonight, I'd like to review the city's CalPERS unfunded liabilities and discuss a funding strategy to address them. First, I'll provide an overview update of the most recent actuarial reports received by the city. Next, I'll show you the projected future citywide contributions CalPERS anticipates that we will be making on behalf of our employees. And then I'll talk about actions we've taken to date to address rising CalPERS costs and discuss both short-term and long-term actions that have been evaluated. This compares the June 30th, 2016 and June 30th, 2017 actuarial reports. There is a lag in time between when the reports are dated and when they are received by the city. For example, the June 30th, 2017 reports were received by the city on August 6, 2018, which is fairly typical. There's always a lag there. The city has a total of 7 retirement plan tiers with CalPERS. This is an aggregation of all of the tiers that shows all of the assets for all 7 plans, along with all of the actuarial determined liabilities for those same plans. The assets are the city's share of what has been paid by the city for employee retirements, along with the amounts contributed by employees and the investment earnings over time that have been accumulated and allocated within the plan to City of Yuba City. The liabilities are the actually determined costs that are accumulated within the plan for future retirement benefits for city staff. They've determined those based upon their estimated future salary increases for city staff, anticipated retirement dates, along with what they estimate life expectancy to be for each of the city staff members, both active and retirees. The net of these two amounts is a negative number. This means the city has more in estimated liabilities than we have in assets available. This is what is considered an unfunded actuarial liability, or what we refer to as our UAL. More simply stated, the city owes more than it currently has available to pay out. We are not unique in this situation. This is common among California agencies that contract with CalPERS for retirement benefits. And looking at this, you can see the city's UAL actually declined by just under $3 million from year to year. This was not expected. Due to the changes in CalPERS assumption and the lowering of the discount rate, city staff actually expected this amount to increase, not decline. I will explain why and how this decline occurred in a few slides. The funded status is a percentage which compares the market value of assets on hand as of the actuarial date to the projected future benefits, payments, liabilities for retirees. If the percentage is less than 100%, it indicates the city or the agency has a net UAL, or unfunded actuarial liability. For Yuba City, the funded status percentage was 71.5% for the miscellaneous plan, and the average of the 2 largest safety plans was 73.75 as of June 30th, 2017. Citywide, the total UAL declined. However, the UAL increased in 4 out of 6 of the safety plans. Overall, the UAL increased by $628,200 in the safety plans, and it declined just under $3.6 million for the miscellaneous plan. Reasons for the decline in the miscellaneous plan. I corresponded directly with the city's actuary to determine what this was caused by, because I wasn't expecting it when I started thinking about why it occurred. 2 out of the 3 reasons I was able to logically come to on my own, but the actuary actually confirmed them for me. There was a net gain in assets due to the 11.2% return on CalPERS investments that were made during that year. There was a gain in liabilities because the COLA received by retirees was less than anticipated and expected by CalPERS. And the third reason is the average salary increase was less than expected by CalPERS actuaries for city staff. CalPERS, when they put together their projections for their actuarial reports, they estimate a 3% increase on average for city staff, and that hasn't been happening. For Yuba City, we've negotiated employee bargaining unit contracts that have combined one-time money with ongoing salary increases, not just ongoing salary increases. And over the last 4 years, the last 2 bargaining cycles, the city has actually provided 2% ongoing salary increases. During that same time, if you use CalPERS method and the way that they calculate it on a compounded basis, that same increase would be about 12.55% compounded if it was 3% per year. And instead, on a compounded basis, the 2% times two times that it happened is 4.04%. So the reality is we provided a lot less in ongoing increases so that we didn't further exacerbate an already existing problem when we were negotiating our employee bargaining unit contracts. Just trying to deal with the CalPERS issue because we knew it was a problem. This shows you the comparison of projected retirement cost increases by actuarial year. And what it shows is the red line was the 2014 actuarial reports. The blue line was the 2015 actuarial reports. That was pretty intimidating when we got that information. It showed that by 2022-23, our total expected contributions to CalPERS were going to amount to about $12.75 million. And that's an increase from fiscal year 15-16 of only $6.5 million, so roughly doubling. The 2016 actuarial reports improved those calculations some, and the 2017, which is the green line that you see up there, are even better. It still is a daunting number by fiscal year 22-23, amounting to about $11.3 million projected in CalPERS contributions on a citywide basis. That's a huge increase for us. We have been planning and building it into our model because we're aware of it. But it still is very difficult to be able to allocate that much of our budget to cover those costs. The June 30th, 2017 actuarial reports that we just received set the rates and the contributions for the city for our budget year, fiscal year 1920. So it gives us time to plan and figure out how we're going to prioritize building those into our budget. That said, CalPERS charges us interest on the unfunded liabilities. The interest on our unfunded liability amounts to about $5.1 million. Our contribution towards the UAL is about $5.3 million, meaning that we're paying down about $200,000 of the principal. The concern there is the interest charge keeps adding up year over year if you don't whittle down the principal, and it's almost like a loan where you're making interest-only payments and paying very little towards the principal. Next, I'd like to discuss what we've done to address the situation because we have been proactive in trying to take care of these obligations and address them. To date, in June 2016, City Council had the foresight to establish a pension stabilization trust fund. Currently, the balance is just under $2.5 million. The city has prepaid our annual UAL costs for the past 4 years, saving an estimated $300,000 to date. Employees now pay the employees' share of PERS. This saves the city $2 million annually, and this wasn't negotiated in exchange for a raise, which would have further exacerbated our problems paying PERS on the increase in salary to employees. PERS impacts are always considered when negotiating with employee bargaining units. As already discussed in the past 2 contract cycles, we've included one-time money payments in conjunction with ongoing raises to further not compound our problem. Short-term actions. The city has evaluated potential options to paying more to CalPERS in order to reduce the UAL. Included are pay additional contributions annually in excess of required contributions. Negotiate a lower tier benefit to Classic or PEPRA employees who are new hires to the city. Send a lump sum one-time payment to CalPERS and evaluate continuing this on an annual basis if sufficient funds are available. Rather than committing to annual contributions, staff recommends the more conservative approach of evaluating annually if sufficient funding is available. As the City Council is well aware, there are very many competing budget interests, budgetary needs, and this is a big priority, but staff recommends maintaining maximum flexibility with our budget process. There's also a concern worth mentioning that if the city or any contracting agency sends PERS an additional sum of money and there's a downturn in the market and they lose a lot of investment, that we lose some of the additional funds that we've sent them. We still come out ahead in the short run because we're not paying interest on those funds any longer once we make the payment to them. But there is that possibility, and our unfunded liability would go back up in a smaller percentage. So I think that's worth mentioning. Long-term actions. There are many different things that we can do to address CalPERS expense. The retirement benefit plan could be changed from a defined benefit plan to a defined contribution plan, which has been recommended by many people. The problem, if you will, with that is CalPERS requires the city to enroll all active employees as soon as they are employed with the city. Failure to do so, we're not following the city's contract with CalPERS, and then we would be subject to financial penalties and legal action. They do have the ability to come in and audit us. They've done that a couple of times since I've been here. We've always had great success with our audits because we manage our operation and stay in compliance with our contract agreements with CalPERS, so we've not had major issues, nor would I want to see us begin to have those issues. In order to move to a defined contribution plan, the city would need to do two things. The first would be to negotiate this change with all the city's employee unions and bargaining groups. And second, find the monetary resources to withdraw from and exit CalPERS system. CalPERS provides an estimated hypothetical termination calculation in all their actuarial reports. I added it up, and for June 30th, 2017, it totaled in excess of $490 million. In summary, a statewide solution must be implemented. Yuba City is not unique in addressing this problem. Pension reform is necessary as the current system is unsustainable for some member agencies. The city has planned for these large cost increases and has built them into our budget model. And lastly, staff's recommendation is that we pay an additional $750,000 to CalPERS in the current year, $600,000 from the Pension Stabilization Trust Fund, and the other $150,000 allocated to the water, wastewater, and fleet maintenance, the other three funds that we pay city employees staff out of. Doing so will save the city almost $200,000 in interest expense over the next 6 years. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Robin. Bring it to council for any questions of Robin or comments? No?
To the mayor.
Yes.
Thank you, Robin, for the great work that you do for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Anything else?
Through the mayor.
Yeah.
Just a question regarding the pension fund that we remain in control of, so that if CalPERS doesn't make their interest goals, that's ours and we won't lose it. And, you know, the value of that. And we can use that over the next few years if we see that it would be more beneficial, same reason, interest-wise, over the period of time, to pay another payment, whatever size, 500, 700, whatever it would be. And if we had budget savings, we could, you know, because we usually roll a little bit of the budget savings into that fund, we would be able to do this again and at least keep some sustainability within our own local CalPERS account. Because I know some communities in the area have done virtually very little, and they're actually going into critical mode on some of their CalPERS accounts. And again, I will echo, phenomenal job on coming up with ideas and concepts for us to have implemented since 2016 and before that, some of the things that were done to not address the totality of the condition, because that's impossible, but to work towards a goal to lessen the impact each time something happens. And you've come up with ways to do that. And
Thank you. We've
that
tried.
is, yeah, I know you're a perfectionist on numbers and everything, so you really work things over well. And I know your staff is pretty good at finding ways and things to help you out in that. It's very appreciative that Yuba City has been able to be much more stable than other agencies in the community.
Thank you. We have a lot of continuity with staffing in the finance department, and that really has helped us to be able to provide timely and accurate information to the council, citizens, and other city staff. To address your comment, we do have about 2.5 million in the Pension Stabilization Trust. So if council's pleasure is to go with staff's recommendation and use 600,000 of that, then we would still have about 1.9 million, which would give us a lot of flexibility for future years.
Right.
Plus, you are correct that the plan is to put some funds back into that with the hopeful excess revenues from the current fiscal year that just ended. Finance is still crunching those numbers and closing the books and getting ready for audit. So it'll be another month before we have that number nailed down and we know exactly how much we have potentially available to work with.
Yep.
But that's exactly the plan.
The big picture is well taken care of. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Through the mayor.
Yes.
So Robin, CalPERS has been somewhat helpful, and so has the League of California Cities, in suggested strategies to reduce our unfunded liability. And we have implemented, I think by count, nearly every strategy that is currently out there.
I would agree with you. And I will say that I have found CalPERS actuarial staff extremely good to work with. I have emailed them. They have typically responded within the hour and have been very helpful in trying to help me strategize and find ways to meet our long-term goals, which is ultimately reducing costs and avoiding interest if possible.
With and there has been critical input, and probably rightfully so from the public, that Yuba City doesn't, we just kind of gloss over this. And can you give just kind of an estimated amount of staff time that in a typical month that you are dealing with the CalPERS issues?
We do our monthly report, well, we do payroll reporting after every payroll to CalPERS, and I can't really estimate how long that takes because I'm not involved. I'm looking at Spencer since he supervises payroll. It takes time because there's always little tweaks we have to make to the CalPERS system. So not only that, but just staying up on what CalPERS is doing next. I received their board agenda today and forwarded something to Steve, our city manager, that was interesting about the June 30th, 2019 actuarial report. So I'm always looking ahead. To say an estimate, I would say more on an annual basis, it's probably 40 hours of time, thereabouts. It comes in big lumps, like we wait to get the actuarial report. As soon as we get it, I'm tearing those things apart, recapping them and figuring out what's changed and then trying to figure out why did it change, if it's different than what I was expecting. What is the estimated payroll that they have in their actuarial reports for each of our various tiers that we have within the system, and comparing that to what we have in our salary and benefits projections, because we have up-to-date data. We know when people are retiring and maybe we've hired a pepper employee to replace that person. CalPERS doesn't have that because their data is running at least 13 months behind, best case. That's true too. Always CSMFO, the California Society of Municipal Finance Officers as well. Our staff, including myself, is very active in that. We coordinate webinars and participate in those. I coordinated all of the attendees at the annual conference 2 years ago to meet with our actuaries in person. And I took my staff with me and we asked lots of questions. I'm always trying to find how can we make it better for Yuba City.
And no, and I appreciate the answer because I think that critical eye needs to understand how much time is actually put into it and the resourcefulness of staff and the ability for staff to convey the message to us, the policymakers, as we try to move forward, and especially during times of negotiations and so forth when there's going to be a possible greater impact on the system. So again, I also appreciate all of the efforts that you and your staff make to keep us apprised of what's going on with CalPERS.
Thank you. And we're fortunate to get agreement with our employees that included one-time money. I think everyone would rather have a raise on an ongoing basis, but showing city staff the numbers for CalPERS and what it looks like, they understand as well.
Yeah,
They've been very good.
exactly. Right. Any other questions, comments? Okay, thanks, Robin. We do have a card on here. Philip Trainer?
Field trainer, Yuba City. First of all, before I get into the CalPERS, I'd like to make a short statement, and it'll be very, very short. It pertains to the elections that are coming up. We will have elections in the city in the next 6 weeks. There are 9 people running for the seat, for 2 seats. For 3 seats, okay. And there are 2 incumbents that are on the board right now that are in that 9 number. There'll be a high probability that the CalPERS issue will come up when we have the candidates night. So what I would like the 2 incumbents to think, or hope they might do, is that they might meet with the other people that are running for office and give them some insight as to what you've had to do with CalPERS. Because I don't think there's too many people know what's happening. I think the other 7 may not have any idea as to what's happening in CalPERS. So what I would like to see happen is that if we have a candidates night, that perhaps 2 of you could probably go with the other 7 as to what they're up against. Just my suggestion. Now I'll give you my ideas on CalPERS.
And I don't want to take away from you your time, Mr. Trainer, but 2 of the candidates are sitting in the room.
Oh, that's good.
So
I didn't realize that.
they do have an interest.
Okay. The other thing is on the CalPERS, I would disagree. I wouldn't give CalPERS anything for their unfunded liability. CalPERS is charging you 7.5% interest for the unfunded liability. You sent them in last year, $4.5 million for the interest on the unfunded liability. CalPERS over a 10-year period have a return on investment of 5.1%, and they're charging you 7.5%. You're paying it. I mean, Ponzi wasn't able to come up with a better deal than that. Take a look at it. I know I'm up in my 3 minutes, but I have bantered on this since 2004. I can honestly say that at the Board of Supervisors at least, they said, come back when you prove us they were wrong on this. I didn't ever go back, but I've been right on this. CalPERS, you cannot, it won't work. You're looking at insolvency, but you keep throwing money at them. Fix our roads first before you use any money extra to send into CalPERS. Thank you. Any I will take any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Philip.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else like to speak? Okay, back to council for comments or action.
If there are no more comments, I would like to move the recommendation to advance an additional $750,000 to CalPERS to lower the city's unfunded actuarial liabilities and save the interest cost long-term.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.